And just so you know, you're at the Conway School District annual meeting, and in case you're in the wrong place, that's where we are. So, and we'll start with the color guard and the Pledge of Allegiance. So, please rise. I pledge. Sorry, now, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And thank you to the Conway Police Department for being our color guards here. We'll probably start with some introductions. I'm Doug Burnell, the school moderator, and we have our system here where I assist Deborah Favre for the town, and she's assisting me tonight for the school meeting as assistant moderator. And we have other official helpers here tonight. We have Louise Zinkel, who's the town clerk, and the school clerk, Mike King, who will be, they've been doing a lot meantime, but if we do have a secret ballot and have to use the boxes, they will be there helping out. We have, I'll introduce the Conway School Board over here first. And Superintendent of Schools, Kevin Richard, is in the same boat here. So we have Chairman of the Board is Joe Lentini, and Vice Chair Dr. Michelle Capizzoli, and Randy Davison, and Courtney Burke, and Jessica Whitelaw, and Bill Otten, who is also the representative to the Budget Committee, but he'll be sitting with the school board tonight, and Joe Mosca, and are you missing somebody? We have Lisa Toll, who's the secretary. No. And then, oh, got everybody? Okay. Good. That's good to know. And the school administrators are over in this section over here if there's any, as resource people, if you have any questions for them. And the Municipal Budget Committee is over on this side, and we have Chair Jim Lefevre, and Peter Donahoe is Vice Chair, and Diane Ryan, John Colbath, Ellen Leonard, and Frank Yost, John Edgerton, Bob Drinkow, Eric Corbett, Dave Jensen, Eric Diedzik, and, oh, way over there. Okay. And did I miss anybody there? So. Mike, okay, sorry, yeah, I skipped right over you, Mike, so Mike Laracy, okay. So I guess there were rules of procedure. They were maybe a little late getting here for some of the early comers, but these are the same ones that we had for the meeting. Is there anybody has any questions on these or new to this? But otherwise, this is, again, the deliberative portion, and we have our voting on April 13th on all the town and the school warrant articles. And so we're here to just debate and do any amending that we want to, and then everything goes on as a secret ballot for April 13th. You also were supposedly got voting cards, so those are very important. That's how we'll vote on any amendments. That's the votes that we'll be doing if we have any, and we'll just do that by raising your card. And if we have any secret ballots, if any are requested, then there are tear-off ballots that we will use, starting with A and going down as they're needed, that are all attached to that same voting card. And you also supposedly got a golf pencil that you can have as a complimentary souvenir for tonight here to use. So, could any of non-residents just raise your hand so we kind of know where you are, please? That includes the non-voting, even though you're a resident, but if you're non-voting, non-resident. Yeah. Thank you, and I guess some over here. Okay, and I guess what we have the classes, did I hear the U.S. government classes here from the high school? And thank you, nice to have you up in the higher end of the bleachers. So, the microphones, same situation. We're going to try, instead of having them stationary, actually have people hold them. The trick is to speak directly in, not over here. See what happens? It doesn't work. So directly in and as close as you can get. That's what works. If people are having trouble hearing, there's a little secret here. These speakers that are aimed into the bleachers, if you sit right under one of those in the lower bleachers, you will hear the best that you can from the speakers. So if anybody's having trouble, that's a spot to head towards. So, and I guess with that, if there aren't any other procedural questions, we'll start down the list of things to do here. So we're Article 1 will be the election of officers, and that will take place on April 13th. So we're starting with Article 2 and going through Article 11. And you should probably note there is a pretty good summary of the executive summary is a very good summary of all the articles that's attached here. So you might want to be reading that when it gets boring here. So, okay. So, all right. Very good. So let's start with Article 2. To see the district to vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,300,000, the gross budget, for the purpose of replacing the windows and related improvements at Kennett High School. This is the project. And to authorize the issuance of $1,300,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, that's RSA Chapter 33, and to authorize the school board to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest therein, and to raise and appropriate an additional sum of $32,500 for the first year's interest payment on the bonds or notes. Recommended by the school board 511, recommended by the municipal budget committee 840, and a 3/5 ballot vote is required for this to pass. So is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Lentini. Yes, if we, either one I guess would be fine, yeah. Yeah, if that's closer, go ahead.
As we have received the bid, I am amending this amount from $1,300,000 to $1,186,345. In the first payment of interest would be down from $32,500 to $29,659. So that was $1,186,345 is the new figure, down from $1,300,000. And then interest, $29,659 down from $32,500. That's the amendment.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
Do you have a second?
Mr. Davison. Thank you. Second? Yep. Did you want to speak to anything, or you? Oh, okay. Okay. All right, so we're now having things addressing Mr. Lentini's amendment. Are there any questions or discussion? Mr. Marble.
How's this?
Yeah, that was great. Yep.
Okay. I'm glad to see a lower number, but I'd like to hear some rationale. I mean, is it just going to be a lower price? Are you going to therefore reduce the price of Article 2A as well? Or is it a way to make Article 2 more appealing than an Article 2A?
If you're addressing a question to Mr. Lentini, yeah, you'll have to take a mic and respond, please. Yes, thank you.
Have this one.
Okay.
It is going to reduce Article 2A also.
And
The
Yeah.
rationale for why it is lower is we put it out to bid. That was the whole idea in the first place, that we put this out to bid.
Mr. Laracy?
Joe, are the interest rates locked in for that? You gave the numbers for interest and payments.
Yes. Mr. Hill?
The answer to that is no. The municipal bond bank gave us an estimated interest rate of 1.25%. Their last bid that they did, I think back in no, it would have been for January, I believe, was actually 0.5%. So they said they're being conservative.
And Mr. Hounsel?
So I didn't write down that number. I just missed it, but it sounded like an exact number, awfully close to what looks like a bid result. So I'm wondering, my question is this, if in fact it is the result of a bid received, who is the apparent low bidder?
Mr. Hill?
It was Lockheed Window Corp. I believe I don't know the exact address, Mark, but I believe they're out of either southern Massachusetts or Rhode Island.
Hounsel?
Were they pre-qualified, or were they just someone that submitted a bid? Did they have a bid bond? And there's a series of questions, Mr. Moderator. And have they been checked out as far as being competent to do the job? The reason for my questions are, what if it turns out that they're not the company that we want to do business with? Thank you.
Moderator.
Mr. Hill?
No, yes, and yes.
Okay, do we have any other questions or discussion? If not, are you ready for the vote on Mr. Lentini's amendment? So that being to change the amount to $1,186,345 for the gross budget and $29,659 for the first year's interest payment. So all those in favor of the amendment, please raise your cards. Thank you. All those opposed, please raise your cards. Thank you. The ayes have it. I declare the amendment passed. Is there any other discussion on Article 2? Mr. Donahoe.
How's this for sound? You good? I raised the issue early in our budget cycle when we began this discussion surrounding the windows. I had it on good information that the Facilities Committee had done an outstanding job of coming up with a solution to what was at the time a big problem. I mean, telling the taxpayers that we have $1 million repair on a school that's less than 15 years old is to me a big problem, both as a taxpayer and as a member of the Budget Committee.
Peter, get a little bit closer if you can. Do you want?
Better? Yep. For that. Better? Okay. Everybody good? So my question at the time was to the school district was what could we do to get back to where we were with the with the Facility Committee's recommendation, which was far less than what is being recommended now. In my opinion, I think this is a disservice to the taxpayers that we are asking them for debt and an amount which is still over $300,000 more than it was back in June when the first presentation was made. It's my recommendation, I'm not in favor of 2 nor 2A, it's my recommendation that the district use the maintenance trust as well as funds balance to fund the rollout of this as it was originally going to be worked on back when the Facilities Committee made their first pitch back in June. Thank you.
You get Mr. Lentini?
The original proposal brought forward by the
Yeah, just take it right out.
by the Facilities Committee was around $990,000, but it required our staff over a period of 4 years to do all the work on removing the windows. We were going to then take the liability, plus we would also be responsible for the lift equipment that would be needed to take the windows out. This company now we now have specs on the windows of what we need and what we want, and we put it out as a bid process because we felt on the school board that for $990,000 we needed to send this out to bid, that we couldn't just decide that these people seem like they know what they're doing, will be okay. We get a 10-year warranty on these windows, plus they are windows that have a long history of quality. So that's why we went the way we did, as opposed to simply accepting a company that says we can do that for you at this price.
Mr. Donahoe, yeah.
If I may, Joe, my understanding from the facilities folks was that there was no opportunity cost associated with the process of removing the windows. Thereby, there wouldn't be any associated costs that the school district would recognize for the labor to remove them. Furthermore, it was my understanding, too, from the submittal back in June that the vendor was going to supply a 5-year warranty. And to date, I have only heard that there's a 5-year warranty on these windows. There is a supplemental 10-year warranty that I understand that the district will be entertaining that will be part of the bid, but will be an extra, an add-on.
Mr. Hill?
This price, Peter, does include the total of $1,600 for the extra 5-year warranty. It's in that price that Joe quoted, okay? The other piece that you mentioned is the opportunity cost. We have a department, a maintenance department, which consists of, depending on retirements, et cetera, approximately 4 people. Or 5, depending on whether or not you're counting Andy as one of those workers. The opportunity cost of taking at least half of that staff every summer for the next 4 years is that if they're doing that job, they're not doing another job. Like replacing the windows at Conway L, or building the furniture, et cetera, that we do in-house. That's the opportunity cost.
Mr. Hounsel first, and then, oh, okay, Mr. Mosca?
The original cost that was brought forth by the Facilities Committee was $937,000. Can't hear me? Yes, my mask is too thick.
Right in front of it.
Hello.
All right.
Hello. All right, so the original cost was $937,000, and it did include using staff that we felt we could accommodate. I will say that no matter what we did, we were in a catch-22. If we went without a bid, we would get hammered. Going with a bid, we're getting hammered. So I think it was reasonable to go to the bid. I wasn't for it, obviously, because I thought we had a good product from a local vendor. However, I think the process was done correctly, and I stand by the board's decision to go this way.
Mr. Hounsel?
So, what this vote just
Mark,
did-
just pull the mic up and hold it.
What, we still talking on the amendment, or are we talking on something, what are we talking on?
Well, the amendment passed, so we're back to the main
Okay, all right, the
motion.
main vote, okay.
Yeah.
What we just did with that amendment is we accepted the low bid before there was any due diligence done. Now, hopefully it works out, if this goes forward, that this low bidder is indeed qualified. But if he isn't, you're kind of locked into a bid that no one else met. I think that was an unwise move, and I don't know exactly why it was presented in the fashion that it was. Usually, you don't award a contract, especially to a firm that we don't know of from Rhode Island, just because they're low. My father used to say you don't have to be smart to be low bidder. There's a process that one should go through before they award a job, and we just bypassed that whole thing here tonight. I voted against that. I didn't think it was going to make any difference because I really don't support Article 2 at all. But I would caution this body, when it starts discussing 2A, not to do the same amendment, thereby tying the hands of the district to a low bid who we really don't know anything about except their low bid. You're better off to have more than you need, and if it turns out that the low bid is the one you want, then you don't have to spend the money. But what you just did is accepted the low bid, and I don't know if anyone knows who this company is or not. Thank you.
Mr. Davison?
I guess I have to speak up on behalf of the community, and I'm hearing a lot from comments that have been made. When the Facilities Committee, which I'm on, took on the project that we have to replace windows in this building that are totally going unsafe to be in, that might fall out, that could cause harm, and then the school would have liability. We have a policy in this district to put out anything of such magnitude as $1 million to other companies to bid on. By going with what we were doing, we looked at it. Jim is absolutely right. We can't utilize people that are working for this district full time that we have to get projects done during the summer. So I wholeheartedly was on board with what is being presented. I guess I thought about it, and when I looked at Gale Associates, which are window specialists, that these people know what the heck they're doing. We don't want the situation that happened when we built this building to go with a company that was lowballing it, put in faulty windows, that went bankrupt in the face of what we're doing right now. So I guess I put forward the idea that the school board did due diligence. We went through the motions. We hired a professional company. The Gale Associates, which they deal with windows. I probably should have put this out here. There's many and many facilities in New England that they've done that are schools, that are institutions. They're either public or private. They're at the university level that know the products. I understand what Mark's saying also, the fact that we haven't, as a board, voted on that. It hasn't come to us, but the fact is that we did go out and we got a lower product, hopefully, not the product itself, but the price, so the taxpayers could actually fix something that actually is right here, and it's a safety issue.
Mr. Mosca?
All right, first, Gale is an engineering design firm. They're not a contractor. And I have no problem with their background in design. But I think my colleague misquoted the bidding requirements. I have it right here in front of me. I'm going to read it to you. All contracts for and purchases of supplies, materials, equipment, and contractual services in the amount of $20,000 or more shall be based, when feasible, on at least 3 competitive bids. Doesn't say anything has to go out to bid. It says when feasible. When competitive bidding is not used, an explanation is required. That's what it says in the policy.
Is there any other discussion on Article 2? Not, are you ready to move on? Okay, I'll place Article 2 as amended on the warrant, the ballot, sorry, for April 13th. So, Article 2A, should Article 2 fail to approve the issuance of $1,300,000 bonds to see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $750,000 to be added to the expendable trust fund, that's the new Kennett High School Facilities Maintenance Fund, established for that purpose in 2007, for the purpose of replacing the windows, that was loud,
My entrance here.
for the purpose of replacing the windows and related improvements at Kennett High School. In the following year's tuition calculation, approximately $493,727 will offset this amount from the sending towns. The special article, by definition, recommended by the school board, 600, recommended by the municipal budget committee, 840. This appropriation is in addition to warrant article number 7, the operating budget. Any discussion on Article 2A? Mr. Lentini. Yep.
I would like to amend Article 2A and change the figure from the issuance of $1,300,000 to $1,186,345, in that the district would vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $636,345 to be added to the expendable trust fund, and that would now, in the following year, tuition calculation approximately, as opposed to $493,727 to be offset, this amount by sending towns would actually be $418,906. Could I what? The last offset would be $418,906.
Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Mosca. Is there any discussion or questions? If not, are you still in favor?
In my opinion, Article 2A is the way to go here. You're raising and appropriating a lesser amount. You are indeed using the Kennett High School Maintenance Fund for the purposes for which it has been intended. Failure to do so is based on the premise, I believe, that you are expecting other things to be necessary in the relatively near future, such as the Kennett High School roof. On December 9th, 2020, in response to the questions of the Conway Municipal Budget Committee, the school board staff provided us with information indicating that the Kennett High School roof had a 15-year warranty and it was in its 13th year. Therefore, that likelihood seems to be somewhat remote at this point. I would encourage you to look at what you can do for the taxpayers. And under the previous process here, we ended up estimating a savings of $188,000. Given the change tonight, I have not been able to run those numbers to give you what the estimated savings would be by using the Kennett High School Maintenance Fund and the new dollar value. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Laracy?
This is more just a comment. I've always viewed the 1.3 million as a ballpark guess. So I'm glad you got actual numbers, and I'm glad they're lower than that.
Any other discussion? Yeah, Ms. Leonard? Use that mic over there, please.
Okay, I have a question. The money that's put aside for future expenses, do we get interest on that money? And if the answer is yes, I'd like to know what the interest rate is that we make on that money. If we don't get interest, because if the interest we're being accruing was 1% and we're going to pay 1.5%, it would make sense to me to use the money we already have. If the interest we make on the money we've saved is less, then I don't see why it doesn't make sense to just borrow the money at such a low rate of interest.
Ms. Dahl.
Hi,
Lily.
Lily Gilligan. Can you hear that now? In my previous position at the town of Conway, I was responsible for the trustees of the trust accounts. And in absence of anybody from the town with that information, the trustees of the trust accounts are where these funds are held. And in the last several years of poor interest rates in terms of earnings, the earning interest rate was 0.002% on these accounts.
That's a big number. Yeah. Ms. Snow?
So my question is, if Article 2A passes and Article 2 fails, what is the plan to replenish the Kennett High School Trust Fund? Because at $54,443 a year, it's going to take like 7-8 years to get back to where we are now. Are we going to double what we put into that, or are we going to leave it the same?
Somebody say that, please. Yeah. Mr. Lentini.
I can't tell you what amount, but of course we would have to replenish. The concept of the fund is to take care of major expenses. Part of the strategic plan is to try to maintain a more balanced budget so as not to hit the town with unexpected costs. The reason we're looking at bonding this is because the rate on bonds right now are so ridiculously low. For anybody that was around during the mid to late 80s will remember a home loan would be 15 to 18%. It's only going to go up from here. So if we spend that money, we're going to have to replenish that fund, and that fund is for potentially the road, it potentially roofs on these buildings. If we have to actually come to the town and ask to have those replenished, it's going to take us years to build that money back up. So conceptually, our idea was, because rates are so ridiculously low, that it is better to keep that fund and keep growing that fund so the taxpayers are not hit with an unrealistic charge when we have to spend millions of dollars to either replace a road or a roof or both.
Ms. Snow?
I haven't made up my mind one way or the other, but it kind of, I just want to clarify for the people that are watching that might not have been here. If Article 2 passes, we bond. If Article 2 fails and Article 2A passes, we use taxes and the trust fund. If they both fail, we don't replace the windows. If they both pass, then we bond. And it kind of, it doesn't sit well with me that the school board has chosen to put in this packet that it's okay to vote for both of them. In my opinion, if you want the windows, I hate masks. Whoop. If you want the windows and you want a bond, vote Article 2. If you don't want a bond, vote Article 2A. It doesn't make sense to vote for both articles. Thank you. Is that going to fall out?
Nope, I'm just cleaning.
Oh, yeah, he's the cleaning lady over there. So. Yeah. Oh, you go too, okay. Are there any other questions, discussion? So we're on Mr. Lentini's amendment to change the amounts, the total amount to $1,186,345 and the amount to be added to the expendable trust fund to $636,345, and the tuition calculation will be offset $418,906. So 3 numbers that were changed. So all those in favor of Mr. Lentini's amendment, please raise your cards. Thank you. All those opposed, please raise your cards. Thank you. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes have it and declare Article 2A amended. Is there any other discussion on the main article as amended? Okay. Thank you. So I will declare Article 2A to be put on the warrant, on the ballot, for April 13th as amended. Article 3, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $54,443 to be added to the expendable trust fund. That's the new Kennett High School Facilities Maintenance Fund, established for that purpose in 2007, with $35,840 to offset this amount from the sending towns, and the remainder to be raised by general taxation. A special article, by definition, recommended by the school board, 700. Recommended by the Municipal Budget Committee, 1200. This appropriation is in addition to warrant article number 7, the operating budget. Any discussion on Article 3? Oh, Mr. Mosca.
The amount, the balance right now is $659,218, just in case anybody was wondering.
Sorry, can you say it again? Sorry, we didn't quite hear it.
$659,218.
That's the current balance in the fund. Okay. Mr. Donahoe.
Could I ask, when was the last time that that particular expendable trust was tapped into for any purpose, please?
Anybody? Mr. Hill, you have it.
As far as I know, Peter, that particular fund specifically for the high school has not been tapped into yet.
Okay. Mr. Marble?
Mr. Moderator, I hesitated too long to say anything about the last article, so I will say what I meant to under this one, since it's somewhat appropriate. The $659,000 that is frequently cited as the money that we're supposed to hang on to take care of these major expenses like rebuilding the road and putting a roof on this high school, would not come close to doing any of those things. So insofar as that argument against voting for the last article was made, it's something of a red herring.
Any other discussion on Article 3? Mr. Davison?
I guess I have to put this out here, being on the Facilities Committee, this district is going to face major dollar items that are going to be coming forward. And to have to replenish that amount of money would take years. And so we're going to be facing some pretty heavy-duty items that we're going to have to be paying for. For that number 2 to pass, and the business world, that would be the most common sense, because if you're getting a bond for 1.25%, it only makes sense. We're fortunate right now in the times that we are in, not having to go out to get a bond that's 5, 6, 7%. Right now, when Lily said that we're making 0.0000 on what we're saving, the amount to bring forward, I guess as a taxpayer and for even a person with hopefully common sense, Article 2 does make a lot of sense to utilize to get a bond that's lower, that low of rate.
Okay, we're on Article 3, remember here, so, okay. Ms. Snow?
The interest on this bond is great interest. It really is. And I'm not advocating one way or the other. However, as Mr. Marble pointed out, we bond the windows, and then we have to bond the road, and then we have to bond the roof. How many bonds do we really want to get into?
Any other discussion on Article 3? Not? You ready? You still favor?
We have spent a lot of time talking about the bond and the value of the Kennett High School Maintenance Fund. Are there any other general building maintenance funds that have a significant balance in them that have not been tapped in the recent past, excluding the one where you're tapping it for $50,000 for a new building?
Yeah, probably take the mic out. Use it a little bit there.
There's a general building maintenance fund, correct? It has approximately $347,000 in it, is that correct? You're going to tap this year, I believe, for $50,000 for a maintenance facility, building repair? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Would you like to try it?
Maybe it'll come.
Okay, the
Mr. Hill?
question is, you have a $347,000 general building maintenance fund, true?
Correct.
You're going to ask, or you are tapping under your provisions, for $50,000 to repair a maintenance building. Is that correct?
That's correct. That hearing's already been held.
What other uses can that general building maintenance fund be put into, or put against?
That can be used for any of the facilities, Jim.
Any of the facilities?
Correct.
Including the Kennett High School?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
I would like to point out, just because I think Amy brought up a good point, is the article that we're on right now is limited by the tuition contract. So that number, if you go back and look at every warrant article for the last 15 years, it's a specific dollar amount because it's dictated by the tuition contract. So we're not going to be able to, in this specific trust fund, the Kennett High School Maintenance Trust Fund, you will not be able to go and leapfrog that number up because it is, although the tuition contract expires in a few years, that is specific to Article number 3, whatever we're on.
I appreciate that. I'm going to ask a question to the school board, if I may. You are allowed to retain a certain percentage of the funds generated every year, correct? Your retained funds? Are you allowed to retain a certain percentage of the funds every year, the retained funds? And what are you planning to retain this year, sir?
We're allowed to retain 2.5%.
And you usually retain half of that and return the other half to the taxpayers?
It changes year to year, and the
Okay.
rest goes back to the taxpayers.
Okay. You could retain 400,000, I guess it is, approximately. Could you use some of that money to augment or to replace the money taken out of the trust funds? No, you could not. Okay, thank you very much.
Are there any other questions on Article 3? Not, are you ready to move on? Okay. I'll declare Article 3 to be placed on the ballot as written. Article 4, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $17,086 to be added to the expendable trust fund, the A. Crosby Kennett Middle School Facilities Maintenance Fund, established for that purpose in 2007, with $7,476 to offset this amount from the sending towns and the remainder to be raised by general taxation. Special article by definition recommended by the school board, 700. Recommended by the Municipal Budget Committee, 1200. This appropriation is in addition to warrant article number 7, the operating budget. Any discussion on Article 4?
Never looked this way.
Mr. Mosca. My head's turned to the left for some reason.
The current balance is $224,968.
Any other discussion or questions? Not, you're ready to move on? Okay, I will declare Article 4 to be placed on the ballot as written. Article 5, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $9,900 to be added to the expendable trust fund, elementary schools facilities maintenance fund, established for that purpose in 2007, with $1,125 to offset this amount from the sending towns, and the remainder to be raised by general taxation. Special article by definition recommended by the school board, 700. Recommended by the Municipal Budget Committee, 1200. This appropriation is in addition to warrant article number 7, the operating budget. Any discussion on Article 5? Mr. Mosca.
Current balance, $114,491.
Okay, is there any other discussion or questions? Ms. Snow?
This is for all 3 elementary schools, correct? Thank you.
Okay, anything else? If not, I will place Article 5 on the ballot as written. Article 6, to see if the school district will vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Conway School Board and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME, which calls for the following increase in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels. Year 2021 to 22, estimated increase is $66,648. Year 2022 to 23, estimated increase $66,785. And year 2023 to 24, estimated increase is $42,248. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $66,648 for the upcoming fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would have been paid at the current staffing levels. Recommended by the school board, 700. Recommended by the Municipal Budget Committee, 1200. This appropriation is in addition to warrant article number 7, the operating budget. Any discussion on Article 6? Mr. Marvel?
Mr. Moderator, this is the union I don't think I've ever voted against. But I would like to point out a difference between the school district's method and the town's method of indicating the cost of a contract. I think many of us remember 20-odd years ago there was a Supreme Court case that decreed that a municipality has to clearly indicate the cost of a contract. And the way the town does that is by pulling out all stops and letting you know exactly how much more a contract is going to cost over its life. The school district's habit is to simply tell you how much it's going to cost each year without apprising you that each of those costs are going to be repeated. The first year's cost will be repeated twice, the second year's once, and the third year will be single. So the appearance is, at first glance, and I remember on the budget committee, some of us actually understood this to be the case, that the cost of the contract will be about $175,000. It actually is about $375,000 if you do all of the additions and multiplications. And I think probably the school board chairman's going to jump up here and tell you how much this contract's going to save, and his estimates may be reasonably correct. But that's the difference between the town's habit of informing the public and the school board's habit of informing the public.
Joe.
Mr. Lentini. Mr. Mosk is waving you off. Okay.
I would just like to remind the voters and the public that all warrant articles are approved by the Department of Revenue Administration, and if we weren't doing something properly, they wouldn't allow us to print them the way they're printed. So as long as the DRA is telling us we can write them the way we write them, we're going to continue doing that. Thank you.
Mr. Lentini.
Because we negotiated a new insurance plan with this union, in the first year, we saved $90,000. Now, we could compound that, except for we don't know year to year what the increase will be on or decrease on the insurance. But in the first year, we saved $90,000 by switching to a different insurance plan.
Mr. Marvel.
Mr. Moderator, as I pointed out at the, I believe it was the Budget Committee's public hearing, it may well be true that that figure of $90,000 will be saved. If that's the case, the first year's cost will be about $110,000 instead of $66,000. It isn't really so much whether the contract is, pardon me? Okay. Okay. It isn't really the amount of the money that I'm concerned about. It isn't the whether the contract is beneficial to either party. It's just the habit of the school board of trying to minimally follow the requirement to inform the public, whereas the town goes out of its way to do that. And I think that's probably why a lot of the town articles get a lot more support, why the selectmen may have a lot more trust.
Any other discussion? not, you're ready to move on? I'll declare Article 6 to be placed on the ballot as written. Article 7, to see if the school district to vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $38,653,496, with $10,645,378 to offset this amount from the sending towns, and $1,588,000 to offset this amount from various grants. This is recommended by the Municipal Budget Committee 10-2-0. Yeah, okay. And should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $38,414,646, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Conway School District or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 4013, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. $38,653,496 is recommended by the school board, which is the same as what the Municipal Budget Committee recommended. So 7-0-0 for the school board. Is there any discussion on Article 7? Ms. Snow?
Are these offsetting grants already secured? Ms. Gilligan.
Yeah, Ms. Gilligan, if you're...
Hi, Lily Gilligan. The grants are estimates based off of previous year's approvals and currently approved. So the grants for next year are not yet approved. So it is our best guess at what we will be receiving in grant monies from the federal government. Yep.
Any other? Mr. LaFavor?
Hopefully this way I'll be able to be heard and understood better. Under recent provisions passed by the federal government and the state, there's a CARES Act and elementary school and secondary school emergency relief funding provided to the school district to help K through 12 educational entities prepare for, and respond to impacts of COVID-19. Under the state of New Hampshire's Department of Education flyer on this information.
Yeah, these are a lot easier to speak through from experience. Thank you, Jim.
We really do appreciate the school allowing us to use this facility, so we're trying to do exactly.
I appreciate that. I do want to be understood, however. Under the Department of Education's website, under the CARES Act and the elementary and secondary school emergency relief funding, the school districts are given a wide discretion on how they use these fundings, to include educational technology, activities to address unique needs of low-income students, students with disabilities, and planning and implementing summer learning and supplemental after-school programs. We will soon be talking about Project Succeed. My question is a very simple one, I think. Of the 500 and somewhat, let me get the exact numbers here for you. Of the $507,688 in that fund that was already provided, according to the state website, the school district has spent $19,000 and change, which is approximately 3.8% of the total funding. Is that an error on the site? Is that an error on the problem of the site, the state website, or is that an indication that you have not yet spent approximately 96.2% of the money that has already been provided.
Mr. Richard?
If I understand your question, Mr. Lefebvre, is are we spending all of the CARES funds? Is that the question? So what I did do was provide the Budget Committee with some numbers. So yes, we received $507,000 in CARES fund as part of ESSER. In October, November of this year, they released a secondary amount of money, and that was in the sum of about $233,000. So, and then there was also another grant that we wrote for in addition to that, and that was called Supplemental Public School Response Fund number 2. And we secured another $236,000 with that. So really, the town of Conway School District received about $1 million. So we had allocated and we had spent money of that first $500,000. We purchased personal protective equipment. We hired long-term subs. We bought tents for outdoor classrooms. We retrofitted classrooms. We bought containers for storage equipment. And we hired long-term subs. When they released the secondary amount of money in October, November, they said, you can use this money, that secondary $233,000, for any costs from March moving forward to December 30th. So a lot of hard work took place in the central office here with the administrators and other folks. We transferred those expenditures from CARES money to this other pool of money. So essentially, we spent the $500,000 in CARES through SPRF 1 and SPRF 2. So we transferred that because it had to be expended by December 30th. What that did do was allowed us to use the other money, that $500,000, to get us through the remainder of this school year through the summer in programming that way.
If I understand your comment correctly, Superintendent Richard, you're basically saying that the state information on this website is incorrect.
I would say that's correct.
Thank you very much.
It's correct that it's incorrect. Yes. Is there any other discussion on Article 7, the operating budget? Yes, Mr. Jinko.
I was one of the two that voted against the budget, which would result, as stated, kick in the default budget, which is a mere $238,850 less. That would be a minimal impact on the school, but in a year with all of the problems financially to people in town paying taxes, I felt that that would be at least a start. And the reason that I bring this up, and to back it up, the enrollment from 2004 to the projected enrollment of 2021 is 505 student decrease, or 24%, with staff up significantly in that same period of time. Also, I did a study in taxes from 1979 to 2020, and this does vary from one precinct to another, but the one that I chose is the one that I lived in. And tax increases are 370%. This is unsustainable. Rents have gone up 220%, and wages have only gone up, and I'm talking about the low-end wages, about 140%. In addition to that, if the budget and all articles pass, this would be an increase, and it would be slightly different now because of what was done to 2 and 2A, but before that, it would have been $2,661,923 increase, which equals approximately, rounded off, 7%. And a tax rate increase of roughly, because again, it was rounded off, so they were a little bit different, but that came out to 8%. And again, I believe this is totally unacceptable at this time with everything that's going on with COVID. And those are my reasons for not supporting the budget. Thank you.
Mr. LaFever?
As an intellectual exercise, I took a look at last year's tax bills, and I took the average assessed, or excuse me, the median assessed valuation for a single-family home of $211,000 and ran last year's tax bill against it. In this example, which you all provided before you came in tonight, this local school and state education portion of the bill was $2,214 of the total of $3,661, or 60.47% of the bill. The same bill run again against this year's went from $2,214 to $2,508. Percentage change overall was from 60.47% to 63.41%, an increase of 2.9%, which in this case, for an average taxpayer earning $52,000 a year gross salary, it will take him approximately, him or her, approximately 2.5 weeks of gross salary to pay off his portion of the school district bill. I just want to bring that to everyone's attention, because what we are here to look at is not just the interest of the town or the school. We're out here to look for the interest of the taxpayer, who has had a very difficult time this year, and we need to consider them as we go through this process. Thank you very much.
Is there any other discussion? Mr. Davidson. Yeah.
This is one thing that is a fact, because I monitor real estate. The Carroll County Independent each week, the Carroll County Independent each week gives the prices that people are paying to come to our valley. And right now, realtors are knocking on people's doors to sell properties because of the amount of money that people are paying for properties up here. And I mean, I'm not just putting this out there. Properties in our neighborhood, they come on the market and within a week they're gone, and people are paying $50,000 to $60,000 over the asking price of these properties. So I think we have a lot of people that are moving into the valley that I think are pretty sure they must be holding some pretty good jobs down, because they're paying some pretty good prices for the properties that are up in this valley.
Mr. Marvel, next. No, I'll get back to you.
Mr. Moderator, I had only a question to ask, but having heard from Randy, I was just thinking, he's right, an awful lot of people are moving in, but I'm still here, and I still have to pay my taxes, and I still have to wonder how sometimes. The question I had is at the tail end of this article. I've noticed, at least last year and maybe a couple of other years, that there has been a clause appended to the operating budget article that begins with the preposition or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 4013, blah, blah. Having a natural hostility to special meetings, which have historically been used to pass unpopular articles that only special interests come to vote on. I'm wondering how long has this been added to the operating budget now, and can it be eliminated?
I believe it's a state, it comes with SB2 form that's, you're allowed this one kind of extra special meeting, so it's all prescribed from the SB2 format, I think.
You're allowed it, but is it required?
No, not.
So
not
we
unless
could eliminate that language. I mean, it's sort of like saying, well, we'll either go with the operating budget or the default budget if you make us, but if we don't like it, we'll come back and get what we want anyway. I'd like to eliminate that language, everything from or to budget only.
And I'm not sure legally what has to be in there, sorry, but I know where it comes from, but.
We don't have a lawyer in the house. Well, Lily's close enough.
He hasn't quite made a motion yet, Mark, but just a second. Yeah.
Excuse me?
I don't think I didn't understand that he actually made a motion yet, but if you did,
Well, if you didn't,
yes, okay, Mr. Counsel. Well, I didn't hear that as a motion yet. I thought we were still getting clarification if there needed to be a motion, so, yeah. Unless I misunderstood. So.
You did not misunderstand, Mr. Moderator. I simply, well, I was sort of looking for a nod somewhere, so let me make that motion. Let's see what happens.
Okay, the motion has been made, so and we have a second by Mr. Hounsel. So, Ms. Gilligan, are you speaking to the? The amendment was to strike the words.
Everything
or,
from
or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13:10:16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. So now we're trying to find out if it has to be in there for some other reason, I guess. If anybody knows, I guess. They're huddling over there, the brain trust.
It didn't occur to me we do have a lawyer in the house. I wonder if it turned out to be illegal, if it would be null and void.
Could be.
I could just add that we had the same language in the town warrant, and I know that's approved by the DRA.
It is approved, but so is this method of minimizing the apparent cost of a contract. Didn't mean to keep everybody up.
Well, we got to be entertained somehow, right? I mean, you know. Ms. Gilligan.
Both the town and the school's warrant articles for operating budget do have this language in there, and the process at deliberative portion is not to modify the language of the warrant article to change it. You can only change the dollar amount. So I think that it's something that we could research for next year, but I don't think it could be changed tonight.
Well, that statement's not quite true. You can change it at considerable risk if you don't know what you're doing, but you can do it, yes.
Well, Mr. Moderator, I'd be happy to do it next year if my second were willing to rescind as well. I mean, as I said, I've noticed this for several years and have not liked it for several years. but just never had the occasion to speak on it.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess they're rescinded, but point taken, but it also applies to the town, I'm assuming, so. Okay. Mr. Richard? Yeah.
Yeah, just to speak to Mr. Marvels, I know that in the past with like the teachers article, sometimes that language was in there that should it fail, they could come back again for a special meeting. So I know that there probably is a choice as to whether to add it in or not. I just wonder about the legality of changing the article on the floor after it's been approved by the DRA. That, I think, is...
I can certainly agree with that. But it's the history that we had with successive teachers' contracts getting passed at a special meeting after being turned down heavily that makes it obnoxious to me.
Okay, is there any other discussion on the operating budget? Not, you ready to move on? Okay, I'll place Article 7 on the ballot as written. Article 8, to see if the school district vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $74,000 to supplement the funding of the John H. Fuller School, Conway Elementary School, and Pine Tree School Project Succeed programs. Designated as a special article recommended by the school board 700. Recommended by the Municipal Budget Committee 1200. This appropriation is in addition to warrant article number 7, the operating budget. Is there any discussion on Article 8? Not? Are you ready to move on? Okay, I'll declare Article 8 to be placed on the ballot as written. Article 9, to see if the school district to vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $250,000 to be added to the Capital Reserve Fund, equipment and/or school buses, established for this purpose in 2019. Special article by definition recommended by the school board 700, recommended by the Municipal Budget Committee 1110. This appropriation is in addition to warrant article number 7, the operating budget. Any discussion on Article 9? Mr. Donahoe.
Hi, I just wanted to say was the lone dissenter on this vote, and I asked the district for, I understand why this particular capital reserve fund was established. That is clear. I did ask the district for historical spending information, which I did not receive. But my main point about not supporting this particular article is that I strongly feel that the voters should see the spending requests annually, not spent in this large bucket of money. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Mr. Mosca?
This article was established the same as the towns, Peter. And I'm wondering how you voted on the town. Did you vote against the towns? This article set up exactly the way the town set up their articles for equipment. So I'm wondering if you voted for the towns or against the towns. Just a question. Don't have to answer if you don't want to.
Yeah, Joe, I'll answer. Sure. I did vote in support of those. Those particular funds have been in place for many years. I understand why they're that way. It just seems to me that the evolution of bus expenditures, it was some time ago that bus expenditures did come out of the operating budget, and then they were moved to warrant articles, and now we're looking at sort of just a plain expenditure, or rather a trust, that the voters may or may not understand is being spent out of that bucket that year.
Mr. Mosca?
It's not just buses, Peter. It's half tons, 1 tons. It's all the other equipment that we buy, and I believe there is a schedule of what's going to be purchased when. Exactly the same way the sound set theirs up. So I'm kind of disappointed, but thank you.
I understand. Thanks, Joe.
Mr. LaFavor?
I presume that Joe Mosca probably has the answer to this question because he's been giving us the fund balance totals on so many other funds. What is the current capital reserve fund, equipment and/or school buses balance, Joe? Or if it's not Joe, someone who could answer the question.
Mr. Hill or Ms. Gilligan? Oh, it's, Ms. Gilligan will tell you, I guess it's.
$280,828 is currently the balance, but we just bought a bus for $102,000, Jim? Yeah. So that would be reduced off of that, so $178,000 currently available for next year's purchases of buses and trucks.
I appreciate that. I was just looking for the clarification for the viewing audience. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on Article 9? Not? Are you ready to move on? Okay. Declare Article 9 to be placed on the ballot as written. Article 10, to see if the school district to vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $110,000 for the purpose of updating and resurfacing the track and tennis courts at Kennett High School. Designated as a special article, recommended by the school board 700, recommended by the Municipal Budget Committee 930. This appropriation is in addition to warrant article number 7, the operating budget. Any discussion on Article 10? Still a favor? Nice to be chair, isn't it, Jim?
I presume that we are talking about that we could use the Kennett High School Maintenance Fund to fund this article, the cost of this article. Is that correct?
They could. Yes.
That fund currently has $659,000 in it, and it's going to get another $54,000 in it by contract this year, correct? The contract calls for another $54,000 to be added to that sum this year, correct? Making it approximately $713,000. Seems to me, as a person, that this is one of those things that should be taken care of by the Kennett High School Maintenance Fund. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So with the adoption of the 2015 strategic plan, a schedule was put together about the maintenance of our facilities. It was Jim Hill was tasked with that endeavor. The co-curricular asked for the resurfacing of the tennis court and the track to be put on that schedule. And so we have already postponed using, we've already postponed this by a year. So the continued postponement of this is going to increase the damage to the track and going to increase the cost. As for the payment of it, we did discuss this in the co-curricular, and it was decided to put it forth to the taxpayers in a warrant article. Jim Hill can speak a little bit more to the condition of the track, if you would like.
Any other discussion on Article 10? Mr. Davison?
The board thought that this was a good move to do. Being on the co-curricular committee and the facilities committee, we did not want to take that amount of money out of the maintenance trust fund, and we wanted to put it toward the voters because it's something that this whole community uses, and if it goes to disrepair anymore, then the dollar amount is going to be much more than the $110,000. So we put it out to the we're putting it out to the voters, and hopefully it's something that everyone appreciates, they use, that they'll support.
This is a favor. Oh, the mic is somewhere. Oh, okay, yeah. Go wreck another one here. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you very much, Mr. Brunel. I appreciate that comment. Once again, we come down to a difference in how you look at things. Whether you use a maintenance trust fund to fund something that's needed now, or you hold off on it to some date in the future because of some other potential issue coming down the highway. We all recognize, for example, that the Kennett High School roof will have to be replaced at a cost of multi-million dollars, as we have discussed earlier this evening. It is my concern that maintaining these funds forever, when they still will not have enough money in them at the time when we need to replace the roofs, puts more taxpayers bonding out there for no apparent good reason. That's a personal opinion. You may have a different one. And I just want to express that, and thank you all for your time.
Yes. Just walk away slowly. Yes. Okay. Is there any other discussion on Article 10? If not, I will declare Article 10 to be placed on the ballot as written. Article 11, to act upon any other business that may legally come before said meeting. Do we have any other business? Yes. Mr. Marvel, yes.
Pardon me, Mr. Moderator, this is a little spontaneous. It may not be comforting to reflect that you and I have known each other for upwards of 60 years. And night before last, I asked you how long it had been that you've been moderating. And you didn't know, or pretended you didn't.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. And I have a personal library of school district reports and town reports and a few other things. And I sorted through them, and I found that first time your name appears is in the 1986 school report, which means you were elected in March of 1986. That makes it 35 years. I'm sorry I didn't bring you any roses, but
I got another apology.
and if I did, I wouldn't give them to you in public.
Yeah, okay, all right.
But I didn't know if that merited congratulations or condolences, but I thought I'd notice.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. No, thank you very much. Thank you. You're too kind. Thank you. Even my wife was standing, though. That's, so there you go. So, okay. Oh, she's just exercising, she says. Okay, well, I'll declare the meeting recessed until April 13th for the ballot voting. So thank you all for coming.